The Hog's Eye is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hog's Eye. Sean Conti here, and despite the fact that my notes say I'm your hose, that's a typo, and I'm actually your host. I'm here with my fellow Hogs today, and that's Steve Thomas, Alex Zeese, and Jamal Forrest. How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm thinking, Sean, that quite honestly, the hoe reference may be also correct.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to fight you on that one, Steve.
I'm just really glad we finally got through the summer. I mean, I can't tell you how we've made it through the dead. If we get through today's show, if the show is successfully recorded, that means we are officially through the entire offseason. And I can't believe it because it seems like it's lasted forever.
Wait, we're recording these?
Alex thought we were still practicing.
A few more days. We got football until, what, February?
February.
Yeah.
Well, no, and now after that we'll have the Alliance of American Football, the Steve Spurrier League, Spring League.
Because you know that's
Yes.
you just know.
I didn't even know anything about that.
Yeah.
Oh, but the XFL come out next year too, right?
No, that comes out in 2020. 2019 is this other league that is going to be Steve Spurrier and Michael Vick's involved. It's a bunch of weird things.
Oh, that's the little development league for the. Okay, I think I remember.
It appears to me that someone has not been an It's Just Business listener.
No.
Oh man, that's crazy.
We only have enough.
We did a whole entire segment on that.
Now I know what to listen to when I fly to Charlotte tomorrow.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
We did like 30 minutes on this. I think Alex was on that. Weren't you on that?
Yeah. It was a couple months ago now.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been on It's Just Business, Steve. We got to change that. I got to come and join you guys.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you know, as a matter of fact, we'll talk off air because we've got a couple. We've got a vacancy, as a matter of fact, coming up.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
We joke and we do have football to talk about, but honestly, before we start, it really does feel like this has been a long off season, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Does this feel like that to you guys too? Like just longer than usual?
We haven't had a lot of Redskins drama. That's part of it. And we need to have something awful happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No, you're right. There hasn't been like big flashy, either good or bad.
Well, there was at the beginning. Let's not pretend that, we didn't lose our starting quarterback and trade for another starting quarterback and didn't have the weird cheerleader scandal and fire a guy for that and hire another guy to not do that.
This
so we
feels
had
like
some
small
drama.
time stuff in the context of Redskins.
It was murky early on, but we're good now.
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe appeal to some Redskins players to go out and get some DUIs, perhaps. Let's go, rob somebody.
They don't need
Something
tempting,
that'll make
Steve.
it interesting.
Why isn't Colt McCoy punching people? That's what we need to ask.
Exactly. Yeah, don't get a DUI because that puts in, but go out and beat somebody up. That'll be something interesting.
Go commit assault, and you're hearing that from a lawyer.
Y'all have been like boring good people.
Well, I mean, I can give you some mini Redskins drama.
Yeah, let's hear it. I'm starving for some drama.
The one of the big stories I saw today, the Redskins are not going to have Papa John's at FedEx Field anymore because of the whole Papa John's controversy.
That's right.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Now,
the whole Papa John, the whole thing is a dumb controversy. Hope everybody realizes this.
Well, you don't say the N-word on a conference call.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, he shouldn't say the N-word, but the context in which he said it was not really a racist. What he was saying was apparently that Colonel Sanders used this word. What he should have said was Colonel Sanders used bad language. He used the actual word. It wasn't the Papa John's guy going out and saying it in a racial way.
Let me just say this. Back in film school, we watched a lot of Quentin Tarantino and Spike Lee films, and even in my analysis in classes, I never used that word. I just said, man, Quentin Tarantino really is overly comfortable saying the N-word.
Exactly.
That's all you have to do. It doesn't sound horrible when you do it that way.
That's what the Papa John's guy should have said.
Right.
But I think it's not accurate to say he, in and of itself, was using it in a way that was.
Well, it should never roll off your tongue. That's the if you're white, it should not roll off your tongue.
Yeah,
no, it should.
If the wheels are greased on that one, you got problems. You've clearly
if you're
been
thinking about saying the word, don't.
I'm about to say either way, their stock is going downhill pretty fast.
Right.
Very fast.
I mean, so, this is the kind of thing that's going to do it this day and age. You can't be so clumsy with words. This is going to do it every time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny that we're talking about food, in fact, because I don't know if you guys want to keep talking about Papa John's, but it's a perfect segue into our other food topic that we had for today. So, am I still going to be eating a brown, flavorless vanilla paste when I go to FedEx Field, or have they upgraded the culinary experience anytime recently?
So the initial food story we were going to have today was not about Papa John's. It's that they did their Taste of FedEx, which is something the Redskins do every year. Steve never cares because Steve has always said he has the taste buds of a 4-year-old who might have some kind of special needs issue.
Yeah, but see, there's only one food that should be eaten in the stadium. I've said this many times: is hot dogs.
Right.
Okay. If you're not eating a hot dog, you're incorrect and you're wrong.
Well, let me start with something you'll like then, and that is the fact that they've added a specialty foot-long hot dog thing.
So now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Nice.
So footlongs don't make you feel uncomfortable, Steve?
not in a hot dog sense, they don't.
Something's making me uncomfortable, but I can't put my finger on it. Something about this hot dog is weird.
You see, but a foot-long hot dog is really just two hot dogs put together,
right? On a big bun.
It's just efficient. It's efficiency.
Really, it's recycled meat in a meat condom is really what it is, Steve. Let's be honest. That's what it really is.
I'm okay with that.
Look, Sean. Look, hot dogs are pretty good. I don't need you trying to
ruin hot dogs for you.
Disgusting for me.
Now I enjoy a good hot dog as much as anybody. I'm one of those people though, who I just pile up a lot of toppings on it. If I go to let's say 7-Eleven, I put everything they have on my hot dog.
Can I tell you guys a quick hot dog?
Yeah.
Can I tell you guys a quick hot dog story?
Right.
I got invited to a luxury box suite at my local football team here a few years ago, the Texans, even though I'm not a fan. It was a business thing.
Right.
Well, they had this whole huge spread of really fancy food in this suite. I had 8 hot dogs.
Good Lord, Steve. Self-control.
No, I didn't eat. I didn't eat any of the fancy food. All I had was 8 hot dogs, and a couple of the guys I was with started betting as to how many hot dogs I would eat by the end of the game.
I think we need to just do an episode of this show where we sit and eat hot dogs and talk football.
When did you eat your 5th hot dog? What quarter?
Oh man, I don't remember. I mean, they were pretty evenly spaced.
So about 2 per quarter.
Two per quarter, and then, give or take.
Yeah.
My guess is that I probably finished up halfway through the 4th quarter, so I would have, so probably 2.5 hot dogs a quarter.
You would have been pretty full by then.
If anyone at home wants to know what kind of guy Steve is, just imagine a man walking into a room. There's caviar, escargot, sushi, and he puts his hand in there and he grabs a handful of hot dogs.
He's triple fisting hot dogs like Jason
fisting.
LaConfora did with beer at the Nats game I went to him with 100 years ago.
I mean, I didn't have the beer, because I don't drink.
No.
It was hot dogs and soda.
I just see you with a tray and they're stacked too high. That's how I picture
They're
you.
hanging out of his breast
take a lot
pocket.
to
He's got a wiener in
It doesn't
there.
take a lot to entertain me.
No.
Taste,
Well, let me get through some of the other new stuff they have on the menu here. They're going to have a nacho bar with a bunch of specialty nachos, including one thing they're calling DMV nachos, which are covered in half-smoke meat and crispy onions, as well as, nacho cheese sauce, which, to me, that sounds pretty good. I don't know about you guys. I love myself a good half-smoke, too.
This is making me hungry. I'll put it that way.
So,
If I knew what a half smoke was, I could answer the question.
I'm just ashamed.
Do a
of you
full
right now.
smoke, Steve, and then take off half. That's a half smoke.
A half smoke
That doesn't help me.
is like the local DC food. It's like a
Okay, do I live
pork,
in
beef,
DC now?
sausage, usually covered with mustard and onions and chili. Ben's Chili Bowl.
Sounds awful.
Come on,
That sounds awful.
it's amazing.
As Sean is shaking his head.
I got
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
to say to you, Steve. Nothing to say.
We got crab cake sliders now. We're gonna have grilled cheese
That
with
sounds
crab.
that sounds really
That does
good.
Yeah,
sound
right.
good.
They had some foo-foo-y health food shit that I'm not even going to dignify and talk about, other than
Yeah.
just
Like a
say,
lettuce wrap or something.
yeah.
They
no.
have to do that these days.
They had some kind of charcuterie plate, it looked like, with a sausage sampler, and that sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, I'm not sure I could even pronounce that word.
Charcuterie?
What was it again?
Yeah.
Charcuterie.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a joke in there. I don't want to say it because we're going to get rated.
Yeah.
Well, you could figure it out. Go Google it.
Do we have prices on these items?
That may infect my computer with a virus.
Yeah.
What, Sean?
Are they saying prices on these items, Alex, by any chance?
I didn't see any prices. I mean, it's FedEx. Everything's going to cost an arm and a leg.
Well, that's
right?
what I'm saying. That sounds like a $27 thing.
I hope those prices are reasonable.
Yeah, they won't be.
By the way, where we're getting this, by the way, folks, is the Redskins had a big unveiling of this food this week.
How do we not get? Do we not get an invite to that? Because I would go.
We did get an invite to it.
Oh.
I believe I texted everybody, as a matter of fact, I think, and said, "Does anybody want to go?"
I don't remember.
Responded.
My work
Looking
has
at
been
you, Alex.
nuts. I'm sorry. I should
that's
really
your wheelhouse, man.
Yeah, I really should not. I should not worry about my job and just go to these things.
Agreed. I support that.
So let's see.
I'm just saying, it could have been a hog sty event. And
they had smoked barbecue and buffalo wings. I liked a good smoked buffalo wing.
Okay.
Buffalo's had wings.
Yeah. We've had a lot of buffalo wing talk on the show in the past.
You know what my favorite buffalo wing sauce is?
I'm gonna guess mild.
None. I don't eat sauce.
Yeah, I was going to say water. I was really going to say water.
that's exactly water. Yeah, that's good.
I like to dip it in. A lot of people judge people if they use ranch or blue cheese, but I don't mind using both. Not at the same time, but
yeah, you can't do both at the same time. That'd be silly.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying, I don't mind.
I judge people pretty heavily on it. I'll be honest.
Gotta have both.
I judge people pretty heavily if they use ranch because my family has a lot of ties to Buffalo, so you go blue cheese because that's the way that they intended it.
Oh man!
So let's see. We had fried fish tacos are going to be a thing there.
Hold on, can I ask a question, Alex, about this list? So when they're unveiling all of this, is this just like a total?
I think they do it in it looks like they do it in the suites, and they just kind of have the chefs stand out there. And
it was a media event at somewhere in FedEx Field. They invited media and a bunch of special people.
No, I mean more. What is this food? Is this all from like a specific restaurant in FedEx Field? Is it all of the restaurants?
Oh yeah. These are all going to be from specific places. Like there's a nacho hut that's going to have all these nachos. And
by the way, I mean most of the times. I don't know about FedEx in particular because I didn't deal with it for FedEx, but most of the time these stadiums had the food contractors through a company called Airmark, and Airmark comes up with all these brands.
Right.
It's usually, I don't know if that's the case for FedEx, but usually that's why a lot of the restaurants, little food booths you see in stadiums you've never heard of before, is because it's a made-up Airmark name.
Well, now they do also at the same time like major local franchises now tend to like Ben's Chili Bowl has stands everywhere.
Yeah,
in all
and that's
stadiums.
different than Airmark.
Right.
Anyway, go finish this out.
All right. All right. So let me give the last two big ones that I saw listed. Three. A pork belly BLT, which that sounds interesting. Steak and cheese egg roll. Now, if you know like the weird Chinese food like slumming it scene in DC and on the East Coast, that's a pretty common thing now in those places. I love them.
What is it again? It's
a steak and cheese egg roll.
Steak and cheese egg roll. Okay.
You put the steak and cheese and fried onions in an egg roll and you deep fry it.
That's right. I was trying to remember egg rolls and spring rolls. I always get them mixed up. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. That sounds good.
And last one, I have no idea what this is, and I haven't seen a picture of it. It's called a meatball bomber.
Meatball bomber.
I don't know what it is. It sounds like a meatball and a bunch of sauce, and I would eat it because I like meatballs and sauce.
I gotta be honest. Not one thing on this list sounds better than a hot dog.
Well, except for the foot-long hot dog, which sounds twice as good as a hot dog to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm counting that. Okay, I'm counting that. Yes, yes, I do like eating 12 inches of meat. Okay?
Jesus Christ. We're going to get demonetized on YouTube for this.
We already got demonetized on YouTube.
Yeah, you're right. That ship sailed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm the wrong person to comment on this.
Yeah.
Because none of that stuff sounds remotely interesting. I'd rather just have a hot dog and a soda and be done with it.
I'll tell you, the one that I would probably check out, I like nachos when I'm at a sporting event. That's one of my go-tos. So the DMV nachos.
Has a bunch of weirdo stuff on it, though. Like, that's weirdo nachos.
Well, they also had, like, a traditional, like, beef nachos and one with, like, chicken and avocado, more traditional
that's
stuff.
Weirdo.
Yeah.
That's weirdo nachos. Chicken and avocado on your nachos is not nachos. That's weirdo nachos.
Well, people put meat on nachos all the time, though.
Chicken and avocado, no.
No, I mean, traditionally you do beef, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly.
This needs to be the next Hogsty poll. What do you put on your nachos?
Yeah.
Chicken and avocado?
We'll get like 10 votes on that.
There's now like an anti-nacho movement. I'm not a fan of that.
A what?
People who don't like nachos, I don't know.
God, people have too much time in this day.
Yeah, they really
Alex.
do.
You say things like this to me, and people have way too.
They have too much time, and they have too much money. Those people need to work harder.
My God,
well, you have to have a lot of
less.
money to buy any food at FedEx Field. I mean, the prices. I don't think they haven't fixed the pricing problem. We haven't gone the Atlanta Falcons route and decrease the price on these things yet.
Can we be honest? We'll probably be one of the last teams to ever fix the pricing problem at
we seem to be the last team to do most things a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are doing this on purpose, by the way, but you're segueing perfectly from topic to topic, and it's really doing my job for me, and I'm loving it very much. So we're talking about Redskins being really valuable. Maybe it's because of the high food prices. Maybe it's not. But either way, extremely valuable sports franchise, which segues into our next topic today. So one of you guys discovered this amazing list of most valuable sports franchises globally. We want to take us through it?
Well, I have the list. Steve, for some reason, couldn't find it on Forbes' website.
My internet is broken.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Steve's got internet issues in that regard. Or Forbes just secretly hates him. We're not sure.
Well, I think if anybody, Forbes would like me the best out of all you guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you and him would probably be, sucking down cigars somewhere or
sucking down
whatever
hot
he
dogs
does.
and cigars.
Well, I'd have to have maybe a sun kiss and he can have a cigar.
Yeah, I don't really know what his vice of choice was.
Vices.
Is he still alive?
Steve Forbes' vice is probably something incredibly odd and freaky. That would be my guess.
Yeah, he seems like he'd be into something weird, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He can afford to have
so-
creepy hobbies.
Yeah. They did their annual, most valuable sports franchises list. I pulled up the top 50 globally. We'll just say,
all those.
Yeah, I can give you those real quick.
Just go with the football team.
All right, let's go with the football teams.
Well, can you give us the top 5 too, just out of because it's interesting?
Okay,
I'm just curious.
Your top 5 sports teams in the world. Number 1 is the Cowboys, $4.8 billion.
And I'm already a little surprised, but continue.
All right, number 2, Manchester United, soccer team out in merry old England.
Yep.
That's sad.
$4.123 billion. Number 3, Real Madrid. And I say Real Madrid, not Real, because I'm not an asshole. So Real Madrid, $4.09 billion. Number 4 is Barcelona, $4.064 billion. Number 5, the Yankees, $4 billion flat.
So 1 NFL team, 1 MLB team, and 3 soccer teams in the top 5.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, and it's not surprising. Soccer, as much as Steve hates it, you go over to Europe and the rest of the world.
That's it.
Those teams are going to make a fortune.
That's right.
But the NFL teams, get to the other NFL
All right,
teams.
so let's just do the other NFL teams. Number 2 NFL team and number 6 on the list is the Patriots, who are $3.7 billion. Number 8 on the list and number 3 NFL team, Giants, $3.3. Redskins are 10th at $3.1 billion.
Okay, stop right there. So what we really have here is Cowboys, Patriots, Giants, Redskins.
3
in
NFC
that
East
order.
teams and 1 AFC North?
East.
Well, but here's what to point out and what to remember about this. All of these teams have privately owned stadiums.
Right.
Gillette Stadium is owned by Bob Kraft under a separate business entity. Jerry World is owned by Jerry, not a public entity. The Giants Stadium is a joint venture between the ownership groups of the Giants and the Jets, and Dan Snyder owns the stadium under another business entity. I've been over that.
Right.
And so the valuations of these companies appear to be probably including the stadiums also. But where a big deal with sports teams valuations are the sponsorships.
Right.
And one thing that Dan Snyder's been very, very good with is sponsorships, and that's a huge amount of income, and that's a big reason why these teams have the values they do. It's not because they can fill up the stadium. It's it's important, but not that important. It's really the sponsorships that boost the stadium, the sponsorships and the stadium ownership. Those two things that boost valuations.
Well, and I wonder if things like Dan Snyder's sale of his radio station get factored into this very much. You don't think so?
No, that was under that
was Red
under,
Zebra.
Red Zebra.
Yeah.
That's a whole different business entity. They're not counting that. If they are, I think I disagree with it.
Well, Steve, you say that it's a lot of sponsorships, and I'm absolutely sure you're correct about that. But these also seem like some of the biggest market teams in the whole league. I mean, think about it. We got the Patriots and the Cowboys and the Redskins. We know these teams consistently pull in viewership beyond, So I'm sure a lot of it is sponsorship.
But you got to understand about the NFL. There's no local TV money in the NFL aside from preseason games, and that's a drop in the bucket. The TV money gets distributed evenly across the league because the TV rights are the TV rights are held. If you read any NFL contract, which I have, the team sponsorships deals always specifically carve out TV rights because the teams do not hold TV rights.
Yeah, and I remember seeing something actually this week or last week about what the NFL is giving each team, and it's about $175 million.
Yeah. It's basically they take the amount and they divide it by 32.
Right, and that's what each team gets just from TV rights.
But this is all of this other stuff. Like Jerry Jones was revolutionary in the world of local sponsorships. He really, you guys are, I know Sean is too young for this and Jamal certainly is, but back in the beginning he really ticked off a whole bunch of NFL owners because of the way he was doing, the creative ways in which he was doing sponsorships. And I can't remember which one it is, but he had a sponsorship. If the NFL was Coke, he had Pepsi. I can't remember what order it goes in. I think the NFL is Pepsi, and so he had Coke.
He had a bunch of local deals with like Pizza Hut and stuff like that. I remember back in the day.
Now everybody does it.
Yeah,
they're following the Jerry Jones model.
And one thing to point out, since they're on the list, I'll mention the most popular team in the NFL is probably still the Steelers. Like if you were to do polling, they're usually it's them or the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's the Cowboys.
Well, that's what I'm saying too about the sponsorship. Are the sponsorships coming from the fact that there's so much viewership? Is that why the sponsorships are? Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, so it comes down.
It's tied together.
Yeah,
it's tied together. Like Cleveland, I think the Lions on that list were 31.
No, Steelers are 31. Let me find the Lions here.
No, I'm talking just in the NFL rankings. I think the Lions are 31, and that's because there's not a lot of Lions fans, and so people aren't going to pay them a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the Lions and Cincinnati are the two teams that might not even be in the top 50.
Really small market.
Almost every NFL team's in the top 50.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, this list is nothing new. I mean, the only difference is that surprised me when Alex was reading this to me off air was that the Giants had leapfrogged us. I hadn't realized that.
Yeah, and I think, when we were talking off air, I also mentioned I think that actually happened when the Giants got their new stadium. Because, they probably got a bunch of new sponsorship stuff with the stadium.
Well, and the new stadium itself is absurdly valuable. It was like a $2 billion project or something like that.
Right, even though that was all paid for by New Jersey or whatever.
No, it wasn't all paid for by New Jersey.
I thought New Jersey put all the money into it.
No, the bulk of it was privately financed.
Oh, okay. I thought New Jersey ponied up a ton of cash.
They ponied up some, but not.
Okay.
The bulk was privately financed.
Yeah, well, it's still built in the middle of freaking nowhere, and like the armpit of the whole New York tri-state area.
This brings up, I know a lot of you out there want the Redskins stadium to be in D.C., but part of the problem with building any stadium in any downtown is that stadiums take up a ton of acreage.
Yeah,
mostly for the parking, but.
Yeah, I mean, but like for example, I think FedEx is 200 acres. The entire property is 200. Where are you going to find 200 acres in downtown DC?
Yeah, you're not going to find 200. You'd have to build something different.
You'd have to go, unless you're going to bulldoze RFK, and by the way, RFK Stadium is owned by the federal government.
Right.
Muriel Bowser just I think last week was mentioning this and was asking the federal government to extend the lease because the federal government leases it to D.C.
Right.
So it's a big mess. That's why that whole big mess is why
they actually have been asking to buy the land straight out from the government.
Yeah,
which
the government has given them the cold shoulder on.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's a huge open area of land in D.C. right next to the Washington Monument there, and in front of Lincoln. It's just a big, wide open space of land. Put anything
right there.
Yeah.
Well, there is one piece of land that they could build it on. Not to get into the weeds of it too much, so to speak, but that's Poplar Point out in Anacostia, like right across the river from Nats Park. There's like a huge. And it's a park land, but it's just kind of like no one uses it.
DC owned or is it?
I'm not sure if it's DC or I think it might be co-owned by the federal government kind of thing.
See, that's a big problem.
Yeah,
that's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's all parkland.
We don't want to get into do a whole other show on stadiums.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get into that. Point is it's not an accident that these teams on that list all own their own stadiums. And the Yankees, Madison Square Garden Group, the Yankees have all that money because of Madison Square Garden Group. It's not an accident. Mm-hmm. And yes, Sean's right in that valuation is directly tied to the number of eyeballs that glue themselves to games, and if there's more eyeballs, then sponsors are willing to pay more money.
Well, and I will say, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but the only other team that's been as dysfunctional as the Redskins that are ranked above them is the New York Knicks. The
Redskins are only dysfunctional on the field.
Well, that's what I'm talking wins and losses. Yeah, like, all these other teams have had some success in the last, 10 years.
The Knicks have tried desperately hard to be the Knicks are valuable despite themselves.
Right.
Well, they had Melo, the small Melo era before everything went down.
Yeah, and Jeremy Lin for, what was that, 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah. I think they...
Insanity.
I think they were together, Lin and Melo.
Yeah.
At some point.
Should we get to actual Redskins news?
Let's do Redskins stuff.
I guess. All right. Well, let's do the position group then. So we had our article, as we always do, and a poll, correct? About
yes, we have a poll.
So about our particular group that we're doing. So take us through the user poll, Steve.
Okay. Well, when we were planning out the order in which to do this, we wanted to save some of the best groups for last. And which is why I did left guards, over 4th of July.
Right. Woohoo! Left guards.
I'll claim that. Yeah. But anyway, not left guard, but guards. But anyway, this week is quarterbacks because we wanted to save the best for last, and the only thing we have left now is special teams. So we did quarterbacks this week. And the poll question was, and this is Jamal's poll question here. What's your confidence level in the Redskins quarterback group in 2018 as compared to 2017? The 4 choices we had were higher, lower, about the same, or it's going to be a disaster. Because you just know some people are going to vote for that because some people are going to think that.
Of course.
And so because this is Jamal's poll, let's save Jamal for last. Let's go with Alex first. Alex, as always, tell us what you think and tell us what you think the people would vote for.
I think the people are unabashed homers, so they're going to say higher. I think it's going to be about the same.
Okay.
I'm going to guess the people said higher, and I'm also going to say higher. I know it's not going to be a huge improvement, but I think he's better under pressure. I think he's better at the end of games. I think he's better when they're behind, etc. Boom.
Okay. And Jamal, what do you think?
I think the people will vote higher. And I would say personally, maybe a little bit higher. I get that to Alex as the starter. So yeah, a little bit higher. So I'll go higher personally.
All right. Well, it turns out all of you are right, and the people are in fact homers. And by 70% of you out there voted for higher. I was surprised it was that much because I figured we'd get some of the
I'm not. We're in that part of the year where everyone's going to be, putting on their burgundy face paint soon.
True.
So yeah, but I kind of thought some people out there still be in the I Love Kirk mode. But
when things it's very predictable when it comes to Cousins and other players that's been a long-term Redskin. Like when they leave, they turn heel. Like it's only, I think the only person in recent time that people really didn't have any animosity towards was Brian Orakpo. They see him
Morris.
doing. Oh yeah, Alfred Morris too.
Yeah, those are a couple guys.
No, Alfred was a little bit mixed. A lot of people said he lost his way, and I'm one of them, and I'm actually still in that boat. But
I can't get mad at Alfred Morris.
I'm not mad at him. Okay, I'm not mad at him.
He didn't turn heel. He might have not been as good, but he didn't turn heel.
No.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry.
No.
So just the only person I can't think of is Alex, Alfred Morris and Brian Orakpo. Those are the two that people really didn't have issues with when they left.
Yeah, well, I think there's other guys, Garcon and Jackson. I don't see a lot of boiling hatred for them either.
I forgot about them. That's off the top of my head.
Yeah. I kind of think Jackson's a little bit of a punk.
Well, actually, Garcon, they had issues with Garcon because he kept running his mouth.
Oh, that's right. There was that.
Yeah, it's a few months ago, so of course we forgot. But Deshaun Jackson, sure, and the other two that we mentioned.
And we're talking about the guys you mentioned are face of the franchise guys, or were.
Yeah.
So there is that factor.
Let me finish this up real fast. 70% higher, 24% voted for about the same. And we actually had a tie at 3% for lower, and it's going to be a disaster. I knew somebody out there. I knew a few people out there were going to claim disaster.
Yeah.
Not a ton of comments this week.
Is there like one RG3 guy who's just like, Grr!
I was hoping that there was. We got none of that, unfortunately.
Yeah. You disappoint me, one RG3 guy.
Yeah.
I just knew somebody was going to go out there and say that, and unfortunately we didn't. But again, there weren't a lot of comments. It was a bad week for comments because it's in the middle of summer and all that. Okay, we're going to go with Test Side, MFC, who is at John Wheelo. He says, excuse me, having a leader who wants to be here will be a big boost to other players. If he picks up the system, which I expect him to do, Smith will thrive. That is Test Side. I think that makes a lot of sense. Dave, who is one of our better, more loyal listeners.
Hello, Dave.
At WSK28 rules, he says Alex's ability to process the play post-snap and not turning the ball over alone makes his position more reliable. Then add in his mobility with the RPO, which is read-pass option. That gives Jay a dimension within his offense that he hasn't had. Yes, I'm high on this position. That's Dave. Hi, Dave. Last one here, Mike at DC Sports Depends. Now, I don't know if he meant like DC Sports needs.
Depends. Diapers.
Depends. Yeah, right.
True.
Which is also probably, frankly, accurate. He writes, well, since you said please, I think Alex is better than Kirk, and that's pretty much it. I still think we're not in good shape if we need to count on McCoy for a significant length of time. So that was some comments this week.
Okay.
Thanks to everybody who voted. Thanks to everybody who commented. This may be the last poll for a while because we usually don't do these in the middle of the season. We'll see. So,
I love engaging with our fans, though.
Well, the ironic thing is I think it'll be a lot easier to come up with poll ideas when stuff's actually going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because it's hard to come up with polls every week.
It is,
folks.
It is.
Yeah.
This last 2 months has been like you ask us, and maybe an hour goes by before somebody has a suggestion.
Because usually when I ask you, it's because I'm striking out anything,
right?
Good, so I have to throw it open, and
right.
Sometimes we come up with nothing. So anyway, the point is that's the poll this week. Thanks to everybody.
Well, I think that was almost kind of predictable. I think we all guessed that one correctly.
Yeah.
The confidence level is at worst, you're thinking this is kind of a lateral move. And at best, you're thinking it's a slight improvement.
And by the way, my vote would have been higher. I think we're going to be better with Smith.
I would hope so. I mean, I would really think so. All right, well, cool. Let's go then formally into the position group breakdown. Let's get a little meat on those bones and talk some details about the quarterback group we got. So should we just start with the obvious guy up front?
Let's start from the top.
I think Jamal needs to talk first because Jamal wrote his article. Tell us what you think about Alex Smith.
Well, I do think I'm very confident in his abilities. I think the bigger issue at this point, now I guess it may be a question to ask Jay Gruden next week, is just the first couple of days of training camp. I don't know how in detail he'll be able to go, but I would like to know how. So to that point, he picked it up, knowing that Jay Gruden emphasized that Alex Smith will have to be able to pick up the playbook and the scheme pretty quickly. We're counting on him as a veteran, 34 years old. So, me personally, in terms of Alex Smith, I do like him. It's just the more so when, outside of his last season, sometimes you see him in situations where, he doesn't really test the defense or challenge the defense. Like last year, he had an elite threat. He had the elite threat for 2 seasons, but last year he had an elite threat that he used very effectively. He also had a running back who could do a lot of things. On the offensive line, that was pretty solid. So I do, like I said, I like Alex, but it's just the fact that you don't know which Alex you're going to get. Are you going to get the 2017 Alex whose development shot through the roof, or are you going to get the Alex Smith before 2017 where he was always protective of the football, but it was more so the chances that he just didn't take. But he does bring the running element. He is a person who can create something. Sometimes he may leave the pocket sooner than you want him to, but I mean that just comes with the type of quarterback he is. I mean I like him. It's just the fact that which Alex Smith are you going to get, and will Redskins fans be able to tolerate that? Because that's just something that people have a hard time seeing. They have a hard time seeing the Alex Smith before 2017. they want to take a look at the 2017 and say that's what we're going to get. That's better than Kirk Cousins. Well, look, time will tell, and time will also tell how quickly he's going to be able to pick up this game that Jay Gruden is trying to teach him.
Yeah,
I was looking at. Yeah, I do too. Because this is just the way I am. I was studying Alex Smith's numbers last night, preparing for the show. And here's the thing. Alex Smith has kind of had 3 phases to his career. His first 3 seasons, he was awful, horrible. This was the Alex Smith that we all thought was going to get run out of the league.
Right.
He came in as the number 1 draft pick and just acted like he couldn't play football. And the 49ers weren't very good. I mean, this is a man who was averaging about 50% completions. His quarterback, rating was just absolutely in the tank. He was terrible. He missed 2008 with a shoulder injury. He comes back from that in the 2009 season. In the next couple years, he's all of a sudden a fair to Midland quarterback. He's not great, but he's not awful. He's made progress. Okay, and then fast forward to really 2011 and 2012. This was the year when he was in years when he was in competition with Colin Kaepernick. 2012, prior to the 2017 season, was his best year. He had a concussion and missed 6 games, but he had 104 quarterback rating that year, 70% completion rate, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Ever since that time, we've seen quality top 10, top 5 Alex Smith, basically. For the past about 6-7 years, that's been the Alex Smith. And yes, it has Tyreek Hill. Yes, they've had Travis Kelce, who is sort of Jordan Reed, but he's been healthy, and others. So yes, I think Cincinnati was a better team, but this guy is a winner. The last losing season he's had was 2010. He had 104.7 quarterback rating last year. A little bit of an extreme even for him. But the point is, I think we've seen solid top-end production. You're going to get about 65% completion out of this guy. Yes, I think Jamal's exactly right when he says he's not a risk taker. He doesn't throw some throws sometimes, but Kirk Cousins did the same thing. I don't think he's more risk adverse than Cousins. Cousins was very risk adverse.
Well, can I actually ask a question about that to you guys? I'm curious what you think. So we know that Alex Smith has been kind of underappreciated his whole career. Like, he constantly gets offloaded from a team, kind of to save money. It seems like he doesn't never get a ringing endorsement from the team. It seems like people kind of hem and haw about him. They see him as kind of a middling good quarterback. It seems like. Is it possible, you think, that some of that reluctance to test the defense and to get really aggressive, is it possible that any of that reluctance is coming from he wants to take really good care of the football, he wants to prove that he can manage the game and that he can play really well, and he doesn't want to take a bunch of risks because he knows he's already kind of seen one way as not very good, in other words?
I think it's just his nature. Yeah. I don't think he's a gunslinger by nature. Like Brett Favre is like this risk-taking party boy gunslinger type. Well, Alex Smith is an intellectual. He got a 40 on the Wonderlic. His dad was like a principal of a high school.
Right.
I think. I just think that's kind of by his very nature. I don't know if he's subconsciously
trying to be careful.
I don't think he's no. I just think that's kind of who he is. And the other thing about Alex Smith, you guys got to remember, is that he's had a whole bunch of new offensive coordinators.
Right.
He went like his first 5 years with learning new systems every year. So that probably stunted his development as a quarterback, I would assume.
Another thing to keep in mind, too, though, even though he's had a lot of different offensive coordinators, he's spent, it feels like, most of his career in West Coast-style offenses, where it is always kind of shorter dink and dunk.
Certainly
there you go, too.
His time in Kansas
City, but I think even in San Francisco, wasn't his first coach a West Coast guy? I can't remember. Was it Nolan?
First coach, I can't remember.
First coach was Mike Nolan. Yes, that was the year he was just
Well,
terrible.
can we not indict him for that though, Steve? Weren't they like the bottom of the league at that point?
I'm not indicting him for it. I'm just saying.
Well, they had the number 1 pick.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you're right.
I'm just saying there's been 3 phases to his career.
Right.
He had about 3 years when he was terrible. He had a few years when he was improving and getting better, but kind of a middle of the pack guy. And the past 4 years, he's been outstanding.
Right.
That's my point.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the way to look at That's the way I look at Alex Smith's career.
I mean, I don't disagree that he's had a good career. The thing that's always going to bother me about Alex Smith's time here is you're getting a 34-year-old quarterback. And I don't care that guys play till 40 now. A 34-year-old quarterback takes one hit and he could be done. They don't heal.
I mean, what can you say? It's a risk.
We saw it with, Mark Brunell. We saw it with Donovan McNabb. You know, we've seen this play out before, and maybe it works out a little bit for 2-3 seasons, but I'm not going to bank on it for much more than that.
You know, sometimes I'm
not even.
No, sometimes it's not old quarterbacks that get destroyed on one play, Alex. Sometimes it's 20-year-old second round,
That's true.
Second overall draft picks that shatter into a million pieces.
Oh man, I see what you do. Right there.
Yeah, I mean it's totally fair, but
Yeah,
you know.
it is. I am in the same boat as Alex though, and I think we'll get into the other players in the position, but that's another reason why, Alex will raise the confidence level in fans and probably even the staff too. But in terms of the future,
Right.
You're dealing with Colt McCoy and
Kevin Hogan. Yeah.
Yep.
So like it's just so many things you have to worry about because if Alex Smith goes down, and the more you get up in age, you're prone to things like this. I mean, you can also take care of your body pretty well. We don't know what he does, but it's just the assumption because of the fact that you get up there in age, there may be that one hit that just does everything wrong for your body.
It's not so much the risk of getting injured is always there. It's more that when you hit your 30s, you just don't heal.
Well, it's recovery time is what it is.
Yeah, like,
it takes them longer to heal. It takes them longer to recover from games.
Steve, I'm sure you know it. I know it. You get hurt and something hurts for a month, whereas when you were in your 20s, it would.
Yeah, I don't know if you've hit that wall yet, Alex.
I've started to.
But,
yeah.
You kind of hit a point where you're going, oh my God, I just can't do what I used to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
I broke 3 limbs since we started this episode.
Look, I mean, you just kind of have to hope and pray that he stays healthy. I don't know what else to tell you.
But you got to do that with everybody.
Healthy. Only thing I can say is that he's played over the past 4 years. He missed 3 games in 5 years with the Kansas City
Chiefs. And he had that one bad year in 08, right?
I'm sorry, 4 years. I'm sorry, he missed four games in 5 years. 08, he had a shoulder injury, missed the whole season. 2012, he had a concussion, missed 6 games.
Right.
Those have been, his only big injuries, in his career. So he's been healthy so far. At some point, it's going to end. Mm-hmm. Let's just hope we can get 3 years out of him.
If we get 3 years, I'll be thrilled.
It's a risk. I mean, there's no other 2 ways to say it. It's a risk.
Fair enough.
You take a risk on any franchise quarterback. I think.
And I also got it. The other thing you got to know about Alex Smith is he's married to an Oakland Raiders cheerleader, so you got to applaud him for that.
So did he marry her? He was in San Francisco, I assume, when he married her.
Well,
because there's always rules about dating your cheerleaders. Remember, Chris Cooley got in all that trouble way back when for...
Well, yeah. The cheerleaders have a bunch of rules. They can't talk to players. He married this woman in 2009.
So when he was in San Francisco, she was cheerleading in Oakland. So he found a loophole.
He did. He just found somebody else's cheerleaders to mess with.
Right. Smart man. He said he was a smart man. That's a smart man move.
It doesn't. But it's not. It's only bad for her. It's not bad for.
Well, yeah.
I kept wondering why he kept scrambling to the left side in that game. I kept wondering why he ended up over there.
Always going to the sidelines with the other team cheerleaders.
Yeah. I would think most cheerleaders would probably trade cheerleading career for quarterback.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
She was probably not unhappy about that.
Yeah.
All right, well, who's up next on this lovely...
Colt McCoy.
The Cult of Colt. Now, this is a guy that once had the endorsement of Washington fans a couple years ago for a while there.
Well, I think that was when we had nobody left.
Oh, it was. But don't take this away from him.
He had the endorsement of Jay Gruden for a while.
That's right. That's right. So
and he hasn't thrown a pass since that season, though, I don't think.
No, he hasn't.
How old is Colt now?
No, he hasn't.
32?
Jamal.
32?
Yeah. He's up there.
He's about to. He's turned 30.
What's the name?
Alex.
He's turned 32 in September.
Yeah. Okay. So we got two older QBs.
Jamal, tell us about Colt.
Oh man, what do we not know about Colt?
We know everything about Colt.
No, I'll keep it quick with Colt. We haven't really seen him play in the last 2 years, unlike we saw in 2015 where he got the last game of the season. And then in 2014, he was in the mix, before, the owner took over and forced RG3 upon everybody.
Right.
And messed up the whole quarterback situation. But, it's been a few years since we've seen Colt McCoy play significant important time as a Redskin. But I mean, the assumption is he still got it. Preseason wasn't too good for him at all last year, from what I can remember. A lot of things is off. Not necessarily like he played terrible, but it's just the fact that it just wasn't a good outing.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a good showing in his time on the field. But the assumption is, he's another mobile quarterback. He's actually a little bit. Now I wouldn't say he's a Michael Robinson at Penn State, but he's a little physical quarterback who can move around and scramble. He can take some hits.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the best arm. He can make a few throws. He can make throws under pressure. They're not always accurate, but, he stands in the pocket pretty tall. He doesn't always look to escape it as quick as, compared to Alex Smith. But he does have mobility that helps him there in times of where he needs to evade and get away from some pressure. I just don't know. Well, look, put it this way. We'll have to see what he looks like in preseason because the odds are if Alex Smith doesn't get hurt, we still don't see him again in the regular season again. So I don't know where we stand right now when it comes to 2018 Colt McCoy in terms of playing on the field. So we'll just have to see how that goes. I know one thing. I know he's pretty frustrated because if we wasn't trading for Alex Smith, I'm pretty sure he would have had an opportunity to start until the first round quarterback, whoever it was, or the rookie quarterback, whoever we got drafted, was going to be ready. So I'm pretty sure he's a little frustrated.
He probably is. I mean, cry me a river. You're making millions of dollars for holding a clipboard. So I mean, don't nobody feel sorry for him.
My only question for Jamal about Colt would be how much of a drop off did you see in his playing from, say, his days as a starter in Cleveland to when he was a Redskin? Was there a huge drop off?
The funny thing is, like, his play in Cleveland wasn't as good as his 2014 season.
There we go. Okay.
So I actually think it was an improvement, but I think it was also the fact that he was in a better system. Maybe that was catered to him. He played a little bit better under Jay Gruden. So I would say that his improvement from Cleveland actually to San Francisco to Washington was better.
It was an upward
it's
trend.
Just the fact that, it was an upward trend, but it's just the fact that it didn't go anywhere once that 2014 season hit. He pretty much stayed the same, and that's not a bad thing. It's just the fact that he didn't do enough to say that he could revive his career like Alex Smith did. Mm-hmm. So I actually give him credit.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really blame anybody for what happens in Cleveland when it comes to quarterbacks because Cleveland is just where quarterbacks go to die. They show up there and they get shot in the face with a shotgun. It's just terrible. Cleveland's done nothing right with quarterbacks for almost a generation, so I just discount.
I would say maybe over a generation at this point.
Yeah, I mean Bernie Kosar is their hero.
Yeah.
Just say it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's some numbers though about Colt McCoy. Colt, when he's had his opportunity in Washington, has been pretty good numbers wise. He's got a rating. He's played 7 games, started 4. Does have a 1-3 record, but it's 70% completion percentage. 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 99.4 quarterback rating. In Cleveland, since Jamal brought it up, I mean, you're exactly right, 74.8 quarterback rating, 58% completion percentage. Mm-hmm. So, yes, he's improved. Colt is a guy who had, if you look back at his time at Texas, I mean, his stats at Texas are unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
70%.
But he was with, that was one of those super teams in college football.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going with. Exactly what I was going with. I mean, 13,000 yards. Asked somebody last night, okay, name your, top Texas, who's a Texas fan, name your top Texas quarterbacks in the past, several years. He said Vince Young, number 1, Colt, number 2. I mean, the guy's a hero at Texas, but that was the Big 12, and Texas was really good. Big 12 plays no defense.
Yeah, I mean, Rex Grossman was a hero at Florida, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. My point is, he had all kind of the intangibles coming out of Texas. The Colt's problem is he doesn't have an arm.
Right.
Yeah.
If Colt had an arm and was an inch or 2 taller, he would be the prototype.
Right. He's got the brain. I don't think. I think everyone who watches him play, you can see he scans the field exactly how you want. He does all the footwork and all that stuff very well. It's just
he just doesn't have the arm. He has a new arm.
Ask him to throw anything more than 20 yards, and it's a gamble.
Also, if you tackle him, he might miss the next 3 weeks too. Is the other thing about Colt.
Well, he had that really bad injury his senior year that screwed up most of his career.
Oh, and he got knocked out cold in the by the Steelers, didn't he? At one point,
yeah,
I think so.
I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I don't. To me, Colt is kind of your the backup you want. I mean, you're not going to have, a situation. Not too many teams are going to have Nick Foles backing up Carson Wentz.
Right.
Who can? Most teams, the backup quarterback has question marks.
Right. He's going to have
Colt
some
McCoy
of the tools, not all the tools.
Yeah. Colt McCoy's question mark is his arm. He knows the system. Jay likes him. I think he's a perfect backup in that I don't think we're going to do a heck of a lot better than Colt, at least right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So,
no.
Yeah, I
think the only other thing about Colt and he's going in the last year of his contract, the thing you got to look at is that salary cap implication. Now we have Smith on a $20 million, which not bad. But Smith is going to be an expensive starter. Like, can we afford to have a lot of money spent on a backup quarterback now?
Well, first of all, Smith doesn't have a $20 million cap.
I thought it was $20 million
right now.
No?
Okay. No. Alex Smith has an $18.4 million cap hit this year.
Gee, Steve.
Well, it's less. It's $2 million less.
Yeah.
Colt has a $3.6 million cap hit. When you're talking about a top 10, top 5 quarterback, $18.4 million is a pretty good number.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I don't know if I say Smith is top 5, but definitely top 10.
Yeah.
But statistically, he was one of the best. He was top 5 last year. You can measure it however you want, out there, but statistically, that's what he was. And since we're talking salary cap real fast, Smith's cap hit goes up to $20.4 million next year, $21.4 million in 2020.
Okay, so next year he'll be a $20 million quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah. How much do you want to spend on a backup if you're spending that on your starter? That's the question.
That's still not a ton for a starting quarterback. No. If you want to talk Smith's contract real fast, he's got a $55 million dead cap hit this year. So even if the Redskins want to cut him, it's totally it's completely impossible no matter how you look at it. And the same is true for 2019. He has a $42 million dead cap in 2019. Renders him totally uncuttable. Even if you did the post-1 cut, it would still not be worthwhile. In 2020, though, his dead cap hit goes back down to $20 million, which is still a huge dead cap, but they probably wouldn't want to do it, but he would technically be cuttable.
Well, we're going that far out. Again, hopefully he's still on the roster and hasn't retired or anything.
Hopefully he's upright.
Yeah.
Upright, exactly.
Hurt. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to this last one really quick because we did have technically one other thing to talk about today. I don't know if we want to table it for next week, but let's get through at least the last quarterback first.
No. All right, real quick, Kevin Hogan, 6'3", 218. Alex used to date Kevin Hogan. Alex has a big man crush on Kevin Hogan, which is fine. He's out of Stanford. He's from McLean, Virginia. He had really great numbers at Stanford, 4-year starter, 65% completion percentage, a whole bunch of touchdowns, and not a lot of interceptions. I went back. I had never watched a lot of Kevin Hogan, so I went and watched some Kevin Hogan All-22 film, and let me tell you, people, woof. Awful. Okay? If we have to rely... I'm sorry.
No, it's fair.
If we have to rely on Kevin Hogan for anything, it's going to be a problem. Cleveland didn't trust him at all.
Wow. They'll trust anything over there.
Most of what they did with him were short outs to the flats, no reads. The man can't read a field at all. He's got a noodle arm. He sails balls high. He can't put any zip on it. He's got weird. He's very flat-footed, when he throws, which is odd. He has a really wide stance. I think Kevin Hogan has a long way to go. You're not going to fix his arm. He's got a worse arm than Colt.
Are you reading a scouting report?
No, this is just my views based on watching his All-22 film. I think if Cleveland didn't trust him to even make even more than one read,
say no more.
There's a problem. I think Kevin. I don't know what the Redskins see in this guy. I have no faith in him whatsoever. May God help our souls.
God. Well, he's probably. How many teams probably have this the case for their third string quarterback? Probably most of them. They're just trash.
Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah.
Who was better than Kevin
It sounds
Hogan.
like Hogan.
I would
you're
debate
right.
that.
Granted.
Alex, I know you're a fan. Give us an argument.
Okay,
let's hear it.
All right, so here's what when I look at Hogan,
Jamal's got nothing because I added the Kevin Hogan paragraph to Jamal's.
Oh, you did? Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I see when I've looked at Hogan. Obviously, his time in Cleveland, he was with arguably 2 years of the worst team in the NFL's history, and he started 8 games or so for them. 9 games.
He started 8 games.
Yeah, did not do well. Clearly,
I'm sorry. He didn't start any games. He started one game and played in 8 games.
He played in 8 games. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, we were talking about Cleveland with Colt McCoy. It's a shit show when it comes to quarterbacks.
I was going to say that. That's a good point.
You're talking about basically taking guys who they thought were starters and you're going to make them backups. Hogan is limited. I'm not going to question that. You look at what he did at Stanford. He had a great running back. And their game was basically pound the ball and trust Hogan to make a couple deep balls down the middle of the field, or a couple slants here and there. That was kind of all he did. When he was at Cleveland, I do think they misused him a little. Cleveland kept on having him throwing the balls deep on the sidelines, which is not where he was strongest in college. His game was hitting slot guys and stuff like that down the middle. So I think that plays into why he struggled so much in the pros. And, again, we're talking backups. He's never going to have all the tools. So I'm not, going to try and say he will.
I don't think that any ball that's deep is a pro in favor of Kevin Hogan. I don't think he has the arm to throw it. I don't think at this point he can read the field well enough to be able to select the right throw. The deep balls I saw him throw, I didn't watch all his film, but the deep balls I saw were inaccurate. They were either short or long, one of the two. I saw him sometimes when he had to read the field occasionally. That's when he got sacked. He panics in the pocket. If Mrs. Hogan, if you're listening,
and there's a good chance because they're from Ashford.
I'm sure he's a nice guy. All of that. But from a football perspective, he has a long way to go. My problem with Hogan is that his arm is weak enough that you're not going to fix that. And so if you have to play Hogan, you got to go short game all the time. And as we know, Jay likes to distract defenses by going deep sometimes.
Yeah.
And if we have that, it's going to be a serious problem. And the West Coast offense is predicated on a guy who can make quick reads. Hogan gets rid of the ball quickly in spite of his technical issues, but he gets rid of the ball quickly because he doesn't read anything.
He needs to know where he's doing the whole by numbers thing.
Whether or not the guy's covered,
that sounds kind of like a young Kirk
period.
Cousins a little bit. He had that problem at first too.
Bit, but Kirk had a much better.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, Hogan probably has a worse arm than Kirk. I don't know if I'd say he has a worse arm than Colt because we haven't seen Colt throw in forever. But
I'd say Kevin Hogan has a worse arm.
Here's what I see it as. We have 2 quarterbacks who are over 30. You need to have somebody younger on the roster who you're at least trying to groom into a backup or a starter. So, I mean, they needed somebody to fill that role. That's what he's going to do, and he's on a cheap contract. So,
and look, I mean, I don't know everything. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm an amateur. None of us are professional scouts. Not. Maybe the Redskins coaching staff sees something in Kevin that we don't see.
We traded him for practically nothing, which is nice.
Yeah, we traded him. The trade was
swapping 6th rounds. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's basically, here, please take it.
Right. Right. By the way, Cleveland traded both their quarterbacks from last year, is that right? They traded Kaiser too, right?
Yes.
Traded him to Green Bay.
Yeah. Jamal, do you have anything? You got anything on Hogan? I know you haven't watched him.
No, I really don't. I haven't. I seen him playing at Stanford. It wasn't really much for me to say that he's worth being a backup right now, or even have a future as a starter. So, I mean, the good thing is I can't say anything about him currently, but the good thing is that he's on the right team to develop as a quarterback. So, given the time that he'll spend with Jay Gruden, given the time that he'll spend with quarterbacks coach, I can't remember his name right now.
O'Connell.
Yeah, O'Connell. Oh, O'Connell.
Yeah.
Given that time that he'll spend with these guys, I would expect him to improve somewhat. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the preseason to see what we have and can we keep him as a backup in case anything happens with Colt McCoy in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but even though
I was a fan of his in college, I never thought he'd be a starter. I always kind of saw him as a project. Like, he has enough.
I just think his arm is. The combination of what I saw. I mean,
okay,
it's going to be tough. My opinion.
Sure.
Again, I hope I'm wrong.
Fair enough. Well, that is our quarterback position group review then. Do we want to finish up today on a quick discussion about training camp expectations and storylines, or do we want to just let people go? It's been about an hour.
No, let's real quick run through it. Alex and I already gave ours, so we'll skip that. Alex, my storyline was, I think that development of Alex Smith is the most important thing to watch for. Alex thought it was edge rushers. Jamal and Sean, why don't we just go, you guys?
What are you going to be most interested in seeing in camp and preseason?
Yeah. Meaning next week.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jamal, if you want to go first.
I'll be quick with mine, man. I'm just looking forward to seeing the cornerbacks play. I would like to see the competition between Moreau and Dunbar. A lot of people think that, and I was initially thinking this. A lot of people think that with Dunbar being the newly extended cornerback, that he'll likely be the favorite for the number 2 position. But odds are it's probably going to be a competition, and he'll have to earn that spot. And I'm pretty sure that was going to be the case the whole time, but he'll have to earn his spot. Fabian didn't get a lot of playing time as a cornerback in 2017. He had a lot in preseason, but as a regular season, he didn't really get that much time. So looking forward to that position. And lastly, I'm looking forward to seeing how the defense continues to develop under Manusky and Tom Sula and Torian Gray. Last year, I tweeted it out, and a lot of people were hesitant to admit it because of the fact that 2016 and the years past, we had terrible defenses. I had noticed in training camp how great the defense was playing. And it turned out to be right for the first 4 weeks until the injuries started taking its foul. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how they continue to develop. I love defense. I'm a defensive guy. As much as I like scoring, I just love a better defense. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops.
Yeah, that's a good one. I will try to be different. But so we've heard so far receivers, quarterbacks, corners. These are all obviously huge storylines to follow. Edge rushers, edge rushers. Those are all huge. I guess just to be different, I will say offensive line had injury problems. Wasn't Pirine the worst starting running back in the league last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that.
One of them,
I am going to say the offensive line's cohesion, health, and how they support and open up lanes for guys. I think that's going to be really critical to Alex Smith's success this year, and really everybody. I mean, it all just kind of like dominoes falls from there. So I'm going to go with offensive line and running game and see how people gel and cohesive.
Yeah, that was my second one. I think I think we haven't spent a lot of time talking about Darius Geis on the show. And one of the reasons is there's just been so much coverage of him. What can you add?
Yeah.
But I think Darius Geis, in my opinion, behind Alex Smith, is going to be the most important player on the team.
Absolutely.
Because if Geis becomes what we hope he can be, that opens up the offense tremendously. And we haven't had a franchise running back around here since Clinton Portis left.
Amen.
We've had some good players and people have had their moments, but if Geis can be a consistent, solid, I'm going to average 4.3 yards per carry, knock some heads off, score some touchdowns guy that we need, that opens up a whole lot.
Hell yeah, it does, man. Hell yeah, it does. Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, with that, we will let folks at home get back to their weekends, or actually it's their week now, I suppose. Oh, we got one more thing?
Yeah, just real quick. Training camp starts next week. The Hogsty will be at training camp. We will be covering some various parts of training camp for you. We have passed muster another year with the team, so they're going to let us behind the velvet curtain. So stay tuned to the Hogsty for all sorts of training camp.
Excellent.
Curtains are not velvet. It's like some kind of polyester.
Okay, the polyester curtain.
All right, nice. That was a good thing to call attention to, Steve, so we will make sure to tweet all that stuff out as well, just so you all know. We got you covered as we finish up the off season here. We will see you all next time. Take care.